my name is Cameron Toth, and I'm here to review the nonfiction young adult novel titled Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh Brothers by Deborah Heiligman. This is a book that I personally found to be very informative while also holding my attention with its interesting content and excellent delivery and format. Getting into more of an analysis, I want to first give a brief overview of what this novel entails. As suggested by the title, this novel covers the lives of two men, or more specifically, two brothers. Vincent van Gogh is a well-known name to us today because of the many pieces of influential artwork he has put out into the world. However, the name that often gets lost in Vincent's fame is that of his brother Theo. This novel sheds a great deal of light on these brothers and the ways they have influenced each other's lives. It makes a point to show the deep connection that the two of them shared. At the beginning of the novel, we get a glimpse into their childhood. The two started out in Zunder, which is a small town in the Netherlands, we begin to see how their family, friends, and town life influence the men they later grow into. The novel then continues by showing their adult lives. Vincent works on painting and Theo works on selling paintings. We also get to see accounts of the brothers' struggles with identity, love, and so much more. The novel finally ends with detailing the events that lead to both of their deaths, along with their deaths themselves. The summary on the back shows us the effort that Heiligman puts into telling Vincent and Theo's story. She conducted extensive research along with analyzing over 600 letters that Vincent wrote to Theo during his lifetime. Knowing this gives a certain level of validity to the accuracy of Heiligman's telling of their story. Finally, one of the most interesting parts of the novel is the formatting. We are drawn out of the continuity of time in the very first two sections. These sections are titled Threshold and Interrisal, and they include brief snippets into the brothers' lives when they are older. After these sections are concluded, the novel goes back into the expected adolescence to death timeline. The chapters are divided into 14 sections that are titled galleries, which is a clever way for Heiligman to format her story in a way that reflects its content, given that Vincent and Theo are both involved in the art world. The last section of the novel is titled Exit and not Gallery because it does not include the brothers because it covers events after they have already passed. Now, all these points are just a basic overview of what the novel is about and what is significant and notable about it. We will now move forward towards more of an analysis. For starters, there are interesting connections we can make between the text and the world. As Heiligman states, we can't, quote, go back in time and diagnose him, end quote, but Vincent does seem to display signs of bipolar disorder given his frequent episodes that are either manic or depressive. The novel shows both of these extremes through Vincent's obsession with his work and his multiple attempts on taking his own life. Heiligman even makes a point to note that there hasn't really been any start to the study of mental illness in Vincent and Theo's time. Sigmund Freud, a notable figure who jumpstarts these conversations, is only, quote, 3 years younger than Vincent, end quote, as Heiligman points out. Now, bipolar disorder, as defined by the American Psychiatric Association article titled What Are Bipolar Disorders? It is basically when something in the brain, quote, causes changes in the person's mood, energy, and ability to function, end quote. These changes are shown through intense emotional states that occur at different points in a person's life. These moods fluctuate from manic to depressive. From the behavior we see of Vincent in this novel, it is safe to make some assumptions based on his past behavior and our present-day knowledge. Another connection that we can make between the text and the world would be 2 pages in the book that directly mimic one of Vincent's most famous paintings. At one point in the novel, Heiligman tells us about the many paintings he made while at an asylum in St. Remy. Now, the words on this page are the names of some of the paintings he made while he was checked in there. They are organized in a way that mimics his painting called Starry Night. Heiligman makes sure to emphasize this by having the swirling words end on the name of that particular painting. Here, we can compare the 2 images just to show how similar she tried to make her text look to the actual painting. The next question that is important to ask in regard to the text is whether or not the novel is appropriate for young adults to read. Short answer, yes. Once Theo and Vincent grow older in the novel, Heiligman does not shy away from the brothers' hardships. In an attempt to take his own life, Vincent decides to poison himself by putting paint on his brushes and eating it. For Theo, because of his earlier days of sleeping around with prostitutes before he was married to a woman named Jo, he contracted a syphilis infection that left him with general paralysis and dementia. Some adults might look at these frequent mentions of suicide and sexual diseases in the novel and say that it is not something appropriate for young adults to read, but I argue differently. As the user Aubrey writes in the article titled A Reply to Megan Gurdon's Darkness Too Visible, when young readers have certain truths of the world withheld from them at an early age, they will, quote, have no true knowledge of what goes on and how bad it really is, end quote. While some parents or educators may think that they are protecting young readers from reading about the different ways suicidal thoughts and sexual diseases can affect a person, what they are really doing is hurting the youth who need healthy outlets, such as reading books with this content, to be introduced to such topics that they will see in the outside world. Another part of this novel that makes it appropriate for young adults is the very topic it focuses on the most. Heiligman shows the complex relationship between siblings by expressing the differences and similarities that Vincent and Theo share with one another. Making sure to show both the good and the ugly of their relationship normalizes the complexities of friendship and brotherhood. It is not always so black and white, which is an appropriate thing for young adults to reflect on. Similarly, in Tomi Adeyemi's novel titled Children of Blood and Bone, the sibling duos of Amarian and Anne and Tizane and Zelly act in similar manners. Just like Vincent and Theo, these pairs of siblings in this fantasy young adult novel are nothing close to perfect. However, they seem to always share a connection and bond that they are unable to avoid acknowledging. This consistency across different young adult texts goes to show the importance of the topic itself, also with the importance of adolescent readers knowing it. The final question that I want to answer is how this novel could be appealing to young adult audiences. For starters, understanding the stage of life that a reader is in helps answer what they could be looking for in reading material. Erik Erikson states that adolescents are experiencing the psychosocial developmental stage called identity versus role confusion. Specifically, this is a time when young adults, quote, search for a sense of self and personal identity, end quote. Heiligman's novel does a particularly good job of exemplifying this stage. For example, Theo commits himself to his brother and does not try and treat Vincent like the person that their parents want him to be. Theo abides by the identity part of Erikson's stage by fully indulging himself in the identity of being Vincent's brother. He is there for his brother countless times throughout the novel, and for the most part supports him in every step along the way. It is even safe to call Theo Vincent's #1 supporter. In Theo's support of his brother, we see Vincent fall into the role confusion part of Erikson's stage. He struggles to be the son his parents want him to be, and instead pursues what he believes to be his true passion. Vincent needs his brother's support in order to figure out how to fully be himself in his art and find out his role in life. Another thing that young adults face is a social change that focuses on the struggle to define achievement. Once again, we see this reflected in our characters in the novel, especially in Vincent. A friend of Vincent named Von Rappert disagrees with Vincent's ideas on art, and Heiligman makes a point to show that he is not afraid to tell Vincent that he simply doesn't like the art that he produces. Vincent, in response, tells him that he does not wish to be conventional in art because that is not what feels successful to him. He defines achievement through his defiance of convention and his boldness in his work. Moving away from connecting the text to the behavior of adolescents, I also think that young adults will find this novel to be appealing just because of Heiligman's genuine depiction of Vincent and Theo's relationship. Vincent and Theo could not have found success without the support, help, and love of one another. When Theo and his wife Jo found their house full of Vincent's art, Heiligman describes the clutter as a reflection of the, quote, 10 years of work, end quote, that Vincent has put into his work. She even goes as far as to call it Theo's work as well, because she recognizes that Vincent would never have been Vincent without Theo. This strong bond between the brothers is really inspiring and interesting to read about, which is why I think it would be an aspect that draws in young adult readers. Thank you for listening to my brief overview of Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh Brothers by Deborah Heiligman. I hope I was informative in providing a summary and touching upon important questions concerning the targeted audience of the novel itself. Here is my reference list for the information I covered in each slide if you want to look at it, and thanks again for listening.